Your job is not your career. Your job title is not your professional identity. Okay? So just know, divorce these two things from each other because you're in control of your career and your professional identity. But the job title and the job, that belongs to someone else. That belongs to those people. Hey, I'm Nika Smith, and welcome back to the Great Big Life TV, where we talk about all things midlife career transition. If you're a woman in midlife, you might be asking yourself this question: I feel like I've done everything I'm supposed to do in my career and maybe my life in general, but something feels off. Well, you are not by yourself. You are not alone. All of us, including myself, have had to ask or have been asking that same question because now you're at a phase in your life where you are not the it girl, right? You are not the person that's trying to climb this ladder, trying to do all of the things. Something feels different because you are different. Life is different. So it's not a mistake. It's not something that nobody else is feeling. You are right where you're supposed to be. And I too had those same questions, and I had to go through the same process to get to where I am now. And so, what I did was create something called the pivot process, not because I had all of these steps lined up, right? It's because when I thought about, well, how did I get from point A to point B, or what was I thinking or feeling or doing when I decided to switch careers, or what was it when I wanted to go into entrepreneurship? What did I do? And so I just sat down and thought about it, and wrote it down, put it on a piece of paper, let it sit, came back to it. And then I just, was able to really come up with the true process. And then I've used that process with other clients that I've worked with. And so I want to share that with you today. Today, we're going to talk about the pivot process. So, this is a process for women who are in midlife career transition to see what phase they're in and then how to work through that to get to the next and the next and then the very last phase, which is transformation, which we're going to get to. So, buckle up, put your seatbelt on, get your pen out, piece of paper, because you know how I feel about that. Get your notebook, because we're going to talk about the pivot process. The P in the pivot process is the pause point. It's the point where we start to acknowledge that there's got to be more than this feeling, right? It's that place where we just kind of stop without pressure. We don't need to act immediately. We don't need to do anything. We got to quit our jobs. We got to blow everything up. But it's that phase to acknowledge, like, something ain't right. Something is off. Something just doesn't feel the same. And it's okay, right? If you're feeling that, if those are some of the questions you're having, like rolling around in your head. Because this is a place before you do anything, before you make any decisions, before you go out venturing and do anything, that you get to really stop. A lot of us are super productive, super busy, got a lot going on, and we don't really take the time as much to pause and think about, okay, where I am now, what am I doing, right? On paper, it looks great. I work well in a team, all of these things, but there is no fulfillment. I'm not fulfilled, right? Maybe being fulfilled isn't important to you. That's okay. But if it is, it's something to pay attention to, right? Even for myself, I remember when I was working in a nonprofit role, customer service role, I liked the job, I liked the people, everybody was cool, it was fine. But that was just it. It was just fine. And fine could no longer be my standard. And here's what I want you to hear: being restless in your career is not some sort of failure. It is not being ungrateful, because I think that kind of comes up like I should be grateful. That's not it. It's just where you are. Just like you were restless in 12th grade and ready to graduate because it was time, it's almost the same idea. So you're not in high school, right? But we've confused this idea of being busy with being fulfilled, or being productive and being fulfilled, and it's not, right? It's not. And only you're going to know what makes you fulfilled. But I think the other thing that happens is what used to fulfill us doesn't fulfill us anymore. What used to be the thing that motivated us, that kept us going, no longer works anymore. And we have to acknowledge that. For whatever it's worth, doesn't mean you got to do anything with it. It's just acknowledging, like, oh, this is this restlessness. What used to be so important to me about this job or this title or this place or these people or these things, it's not as important. It doesn't do it for me anymore. Right? So that's what the pause point is. And some of the questions I want you to ask yourself, if you haven't, go ahead and jot these down. I'm going to have them on the screen for you. What am I tolerating that I no longer want to carry? Hmm? Where am I operating on autopilot? I have been there. Oh my gosh. And then what whisper have I been ignoring? Right? Because eventually that whisper is going to turn into a scream. So you might as well check it out now. Essentially, the pause is where your possibilities begin. So the next part of the pivot process is the I. This is the inventory phase. So this is about you taking honest stock of your skills, your abilities, your desires, and your values, and releasing them from your professional identity, right? Because what happens is who we are in terms of work, and maybe even the whole of your life, the whole part of the whole rest of your life, is attached to this professional identity, right? My value, who I am, what I bring to the table, how much money I make, all of these things, the role that I'm in, the VP of this, the director of that, the manager of this or that, that means something, right? It's become a part of you, but now that you're restless and it's not fulfilling, you're beginning to ask yourself, well, then who am I? And that's where we have to pay attention here in this inventory part of the process. I had a client whose name was Laura. We'll call her Laura. She was a CPA and she'd been in for, I don't know, 20, 25 years, been doing her thing for a really long time. And she was in that kind of restless, place, but she was ready to do some inventorying. So what we found is that she really loved strategy, decision making, leading teams, great with numbers. Couldn't be me because I don't know what I'm doing with numbers, but great with that. And so when I tried to talk to her about, okay, well, where can we take these skills and make them transferable? She would keep coming back saying, well, I'm a CPA though. I'm an accountant, so I can't really. And that was making her stuck. She was stuck in a title. She was stuck in who people told her she was versus, like, what can I do here? Where else can this go, especially in terms of, leadership or entrepreneurship or what have you, right? We started to think about her hobbies. What are other things she enjoyed? Where could you take those skills? She wanted to kind of stay stuck there. And so I had to wrestle that resume out of her hand so that she can see herself in a different form, see herself differently than just this job title, right? I've said it before, I'll say it again. Your job is not your career. Your job title is not your professional identity, okay? So just know, divorce these two things from each other because you're in control of your career and your professional identity. But the job title and the job, that belongs to someone else. That belongs to those people, to that company. It ain't yours. Okay? Okay. So now that we've settled that, let's talk about what questions you want to ask when it comes to being in the inventory phase. And they're going to be on the screen for you. What skills have you been using without naming them on repeat? What parts of your work energize you and which ones drain you? What values matter now, not 20 years ago? Very important question because that's a big identity question. It almost asks you to say, who are you now versus who are you 20 years ago? And this is another important one. What titles are you clinging to out of familiarity but not alignment? What are you clinging to just because you know it? It feels good, it's comfortable, but it's not in alignment. What is it? Because again, you're not your job title, you're not your last promotion, you're not your salary, right? You are your untapped potential. Please remember that. The third phase in the pivot process is the venture phase, And this phase is about courageous exploration without blowing up your entire life. This is where your curiosity begins to meet strategy. All right. So I had a client maybe a year ago, Ashley, who wanted to pivot from nonprofit work over into corporate work. She worked in corporate before, but now wanted to go back. Now the world is different than when she worked in corporate. And but she's also different from when she worked there. However, before she kind of jumped in and okay, now I'm going to go, go into this role, go in this organization, go into this job. We had to figure out like one, what was it about, right? Because really when you're in the even in the I would even say inventory process, you're thinking about what matters to you now. What are your values? Because what might have mattered in terms of 10 years ago even might have been salary, can I get promoted, all of these things may now be replaced with quality of life. What's the stress level of the job, right? What's the vacation looking like? So those are the things that might be important. So and with that, you want to get in this venture phase and start asking some of these questions now, right? So setting up informational interviews, people that might be in the role who you can ask, what is the quality of life like, right? What is that like? For some of you who are thinking about pivoting to entrepreneurship, it is a different quality of life, right? It is a different level of responsibility. And so you have to begin to think about when I use my great big life wheel, which I'll place here for you. There are 8 phases on there. One of them is career. And so for some people, that's the most important thing on there. For others, it's not. It's relationships or is their emotional health or their physical health, right? And that can change, with time and with whatever is happening with you. So it may be now that although I want to pivot, I want to do some different things, the stress level of work I want to do has decreased. Like, I don't want to do all that, right? Maybe you do, and maybe you are ready to climb the ladder. Maybe you're trying to get on that next rung. That's okay too, but you need to know that, and the venture phase helps you do that. Asking the questions, volunteering is another big part of the venture phase. And volunteering doesn't mean you commit to a year or 3 years to doing a particular activity. It could be a project that a nonprofit might need assistance on that fits within what you're interested in doing, and you can go assist there, right? Just to see like how this works and do I like this? Is this something I want to do? Another thing you could do is to attend industry events. That's something that I did when I wanted to shift into corporate training. I started attending talent development association meetings locally. And then I actually started volunteering with them and did some other things and I actually got a couple of career opportunities from that. I didn't know that. At first I just wanted to see like, is this something I want to do? What do people do when they have this job? How are they doing it? And so that's something that I did to venture to see if I was interested. And it was something I eventually did decide to do. Another thing you can do is also always to take a course. And you can go on YouTube University to do that. So many different places you can go learn things for free. And if you'd want to spend a little money, you can on courses. But do something, learn something that is again related to that role or that new endeavor that you want to do just to learn. So you're just dipping in your toe, right? You are not jumping in head first, diving in head first to this new career, new job that you don't know nothing about, right? We are using wisdom this phase in our life. We just need to see what's going on, and the venture phase helps you do that. Next phase of the pivot process is the optimization phase. This is where we're going to optimize what we already have been doing and what we've learned about this maybe new career, this new step that we might be deciding to take. So essentially, what you're doing is that you're aligning your story, you are aligning your materials, and your confidence with where you are going, not where you have been, right? You're telling a story based on where you want to go and really the person that you are embodying in the moment. Remember, I talked about the CPA, Laura. Once we started really working on her telling her story, that it was not about, oh, I'm a CPA, but I'm actually an executive, right? This is actually what I can do. This is who I am. Her story began to change and her confidence began to change. But she had to speak that out loud. Again, you can't wait for other people the job to tell you like, or you're good enough. Like you have to already know that before you get there because your confidence or energy or lack thereof is going to seep out in the interview process. It's going to seep out when you're networking with people, and people aren't going to really believe like you're really interested in doing this, right? So embodying that, and I get it. It's a lot, right? Because it's about you. I wouldn't even say becoming a new person, but it's really stepping into the person you've always been. And that is a little scary. So, what does optimization look like? Right? And you're going to see these on your screen. Repositioning your resume for relevance, not chronology. Translating your experience into language of your new industry. Updating your LinkedIn profile so it reflects your direction, not just your history. And learning to tell your story without apologizing or over explaining. I could go all day. I could do a whole video on that. I might actually do that. But if you've ever thought to yourself, who am I to do this? That is not your intuition. That is just conditioning. The world has conditioned you to that. So the optimization piece helps you step outside of that so you can become who you are and tell the story of who you are. All right, the next phase and the very last phase of the pivot process is T, transformation. So the transformation phase is not just about becoming this person with a new professional identity. So the transformation phase is about becoming the woman who doesn't just change careers, but she changes her relationship with work. Work means something different now. It means something more than just my paycheck, and it means something more than this is my professional identity. This is who I am. One of the things that I've noticed with a lot of women that I work with, and a lot of the women that I work with are in helping professions, is that they have never negotiated salary, not even once. They've never tried. And when you are transformed and you can tell your story, you know who you are, you've done all those things in the optimization phase, then that's going to be a part of this process, especially when we're thinking about work, going to find another career, another job, being able to negotiate salary. Once you land this new career, a big piece is navigating those first 90 days, right? With intention, right? There's going to be a lot coming at you, and how are you intentionally going to be handling that, right? What does this look and feel like? Is this what you thought it would feel like, right? The next thing I'll say is being able to manage the emotional whiplash of this, right? I did this, so now who am I, right? The identity piece is going to come up, and being able to manage that and to think through that is a really big important piece. And every day, I believe every day you just take step by step by step by step, right? As you step into a new identity, you don't just kind of show up and like, oh, here I am brand new. It is, a new thing that you're trying on and that you're getting to do. And in your career, right, it can be very different when you're going somewhere you haven't, been in this phase. Maybe you're in a whole new organization, new managers, coworkers, the whole thing, you're going to see yourself a little differently. And that is okay. That's a part of it. You should. And then really integrating success into your life, right? That feels good. That is not about what other people tell you what success is. You get to find success for yourself. You get to define that. Nobody else does. Not society, what people think, how much money you should be making, what you should be doing by now in your life. Like you get to define that. And that is truly transformational because, again, if you're a Gen Xer like I was, a lot of people told you what you should be doing or how this should go or how things are supposed to look or this is what a career ladder looks like. And the reality is that career ladder was built for somebody else. That wasn't built for me. That was built for them over there. That wasn't even built for me. And so I get to design that. And so instead of a ladder, I built a career portfolio, right? I made a career portfolio. And we can talk about that in another video as well. So that is the pivot process. Those are the 5 phases. So whether you are pausing, inventorying, venturing, optimizing, or transforming, you are in there somewhere. You are getting yourself to the next part of this process, right? So that is my time today. What I love to hear, if this resonated with you, is where are you in this process? Which phase are you in, right? And then, where are you stuck in either of those phases? I'd love to hear that. At any rate, thanks for your time. Send this to a friend who you think needs to hear it. If you haven't subscribed, I want you to subscribe to my channel and then tell everybody else about it. Thank you. We will see you next time. We'll talk more about the pivot process. Y'all be good. Bye.